Can simple home remedies really be the key to better health? According to Dr. Barbara O'Neill, the answer might surprise you. From common kitchen ingredients to easy, natural solutions, Dr. O'Neill has dedicated years to uncovering powerful ways to heal everyday ailments without relying on conventional medicine. But can these age-old remedies actually work? Are they as effective as people claim? In this video, we'll dive into the fascinating world of natural healing as suggested by Dr. Barbara O'Neill, and you might just find that the best solutions to your health problems are right at home.
Welcome to the Natural Remedies Seminar. In our Natural Remedies Seminar, we're going to be looking at poultices and compresses. And the first one we're going to look at is castor oil compresses. It's not a poultice, it's a compress. Castor oil penetrates deeper than any other oil. And wherever it penetrates, it can break up lumps, bumps, adhesions. So great for cysts in the breast, for breast cancer, great for irritable bowel, great for constipation. It's very good at breaking up stones in the gallbladder, kidney stones, bone spurs. If the bone spur has been there 3 years, it might take 3 months. If the bone spur's been there 3 months, it might take 3 weeks. Little by little, the body heals, so be patient. So I'm going to make a compress. It's like a little pack. The thicker the pack, the more castor oil it can hold, and the more castor oil can go into you. Now what I've done is I've cut up an incontinence pad. I've cut it up and I've opened it up and I've put a few layers of cloth in there to make it thicker. And what I'm going to do is put masking tape on the edge. So the beauty of this is the plastic isn't really touching you. So the only thing that's touching you is the paper topping, and it's got that cloth insert, and the plastic's on the back. And the plastic is really just to protect your clothes and stop oil going everywhere, which you don't want. So I'm just going to seal those edges. And then I'm going to put the castor oil on. Now the reason why I'm doing this first, so there we have our little pack. Now to secure that, I just staple the edges. I used to stitch it with a little cotton and thread, and my staff came up with this great idea of stapling it, and it takes about a 1/16 of the time, and it holds it quite nicely. And I'm doing it now because it's going to take a little while to soak in. And what I do is I basically do the middle third, because as it soaks in, it'll spread out a little bit further. I can't hold that up now, but probably in about 15 minutes I will be able to hold it up. You see, it's such a thick oil, it just sits on top. So you've got to give it time to soak through. I haven't covered it because then there's no leeway for the excess oil to go. And also when it goes on your hot body, the oil will thin and spread out a little bit more. So you want to give a little bit of room for spreading. This compress can be used maybe every day for a month. And then you might make another one, because it's not drawing anything out of you. It's just a vehicle to hold the oil so it can go into you. And this size I've made here, that's a great size for chest, for congested chest. That's a great size for abdomen. And that could be cysts on the ovaries, it could be fibroids in the uterus, it could be constipation, it could be irritable bowel. So that's a nice size for those areas. How long would it take? Well, it depends how big it is, and it depends how long it has been there. Consistency is the key. The second thing I'm going to look at is the humble onion. Now the onion can be used cooked or it can be used raw. To use it cooked, we'll look at cooked first, and this is the first poultice that I ever did. My first daughter, I was 23 when she was born, so I think I was probably about 25 when she got an earache. And I was trained as a nurse. Even though I was a bit of a hippie and starting to grow my own veggies and all that sort of stuff, I didn't know what to do about an earache. And everyone said to me, don't play with the ears, she could go deaf. So it was really out of fear and lack of knowledge I went to the doctor. He wrote her a script of antibiotics. I gave her the antibiotics. I didn't know what else to do. Within 24 hours, the earache had eased. When she'd finished the antibiotics, the earache came back. I did not know what to do. 6 weeks later and 4 courses of antibiotics later, the earache comes back. But I still don't know what to do. So when I went to the doctor, I said, will my daughter be on antibiotics for the rest of her life? Which I'm beginning to come to this conclusion. He was challenged by my question. So he sent me to an ear, nose and throat specialist who looked in Emma's mouth, then her ears, and he said, she's teething. Give her these drops to keep the eustachian tubes clear. And that was it. So let's fast forward 2 years later. Next child is 18 months and gets an earache. I do not go to the doctor and I don't tell anyone. I have to do something though. So I went to the lady that lives next door. So I was, 26 or 27 by now. She's 85. I said, what did your mother do when you were a little girl and you had an earache? She said, Mum would steam up an onion on the stove. So I went home, I steamed the onion up on the stove, and then I cut it in half under her directions, so that what you're looking at is the rings. So you keep the skin on and it keeps everything in place. And I wrapped the onion up in a cloth, a few layers, and the few layers of cloth will help to keep it warm, but also just to shield the direct heat from being too hot. I tested it on my arm and I put it on his ear. I covered it with a piece of plastic, and what that does is that just insulates it. And then he was just a little boy, I was breastfeeding him, and I could put the onion between his ear and my arm, and I could feel the heat. And when he slept, I laid him down on the bed, but I laid him down on a towel that had been folded up about 8 times because I knew that that would keep it warm. You can keep it on for as long as you can keep it warm. What did they do before plastic? They used a wool square. So you can certainly use a wool square. I make a lot of my own clothes, and in the winter I make a lot of woolly skirts. So I have squares, and you can also put a woolen square just this side of the plastic so that the plastic doesn't even touch you, but it is stopping the moisture going through and insulating it and keeping it warm. James slept for 2 hours. When he woke up, he was happy. I watched him all day and the next day and the next day. That was it. Just compare my experience. 2 hours sleep with onion on his ear, and then my last experience with my first daughter, 6 weeks and 4 courses of antibiotics. No wonder I went into natural remedies. I was excited at the prospect. So I went down to the newsagent and I bought a book that had A, B, C, D, E, F, G in it. And I started my natural remedy book. And under E, I put onion compress. I have since learned that you can steam it and squeeze it. And if you squeeze it, you'll get a few drops of juice out. This is when it's hot, and it'll be boiling hot, but when the hot juice hits the spoon, it'll go a nice temperature, and you can put that in the ear. You can even use, one of these little soak it up and squirt it straight in the ear. The other place that you can use a cooked onion is for a boil. A lady told me about this. She had a boil on her back and she told her friend, and she said, we need to cook up an onion. See, an onion is a drawer. And she put the onion straight onto the boil. Obviously she waited till it wasn't going to burn her, but it was still quite hot. And then she put that plastic square over again. If you don't want plastic on the skin, and I can understand that, you can put a wool there because wool will insulate. And then she taped it on. And she left it there for 24 hours. And when she took it off, everything came out. She said she's never had a boil resolve so quickly. So what the heat does, it draws it to a head, and the onion's drawing it to a head, and then it all comes out. She was very impressed. So the cooked onion can be used on an earache, and the cooked onion can be used for a boil. Once you've used the onion, you must discard it because it does draw poisons into it, so it needs to be thrown out. Now we're going to look at the raw onion. There's a couple of places you can use the raw onion, and one is for a sore throat. Now if you want to tell a friend about this because maybe they've got a sore throat, they can go to YouTube and Google Barbara Oneill, and there is a onion natural remedies lecture there, poultices. So for the sore throat, you finely slice the onion into a few slices, and what we do is if the sheets get old, you just tear up the sheets, and then you put this sliced onion on the cloth, and you fold the cloth over and then fold it back over, and then that will go around the throat like that, and then you can wrap a scarf around it, nice woolly scarf, and you can go to sleep with that, and it'll bring relief to the sore throat. I think we all know that when you cut up an onion, you're likely to cry, is that right? So that's
To Barbara Oneill advocates for a natural remedy using onions to treat earaches, a method she found particularly effective with her own children. She explains that by steaming an onion and applying it as a poultice, a warm, moist compress, over the affected ear, it can help alleviate pain and potentially draw out infection. The warmth of the onion soothes discomfort, while its natural antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties may help combat infection.
Now I'm going to show you how to make an onion cough mixture. And the onion cough mixture is a very simple thing to do. You chop up the onion and then you layer it in a jar with honey. So we're going to chop it up small. Of course, the smaller the better because the larger surface area you'll have. So I've got a jar here. So I'm going to put about 1/2 inch in the jar, and then you drizzle honey, probably about a teaspoon, and then another layer of onion, again 1/2 inch, and then another drizzle. Oops, that was a bit heavy-handed, doesn't matter. Then another layer of onion and another drizzle of honey and a final layer of onion. So if you had a house full of people that had a bad cold or a bad cough, you might chop up another onion and fill your jar. And then we finish with more onion. I'm doing this early in our demonstration because by the end of the night, the syrup will have formed. You see, if I put the jar on the side, all you see is that thick, gooey honey and onion. By the end of our demo, you will see a clear, runny fluid.
These simple remedies can make a big difference in your everyday health. Remember, taking care of your body naturally can lead to improved well-being and a stronger immune system. Remember to subscribe for more natural health tips and remedies. Share your experiences with home healing in the comments. We love hearing your stories. Thanks for watching.